Good afternoon on what is a bright, cold and chilly day. It is Monday the 6th of December. I am back in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea. The cat, who is not ours, has been and gone, but I do have a box to open and discover what's in here. So let's find out. It is particularly chilly today. My fingers are getting a bit cold, so this is going to be the last one for the day. Okay, so inside we have a big stack of packing chips. Okay. So I can't tell you I can't show you what's in here because I just spilled packing chips everywhere. So, but I can show you that, which appears to be some sort of dinner tablecloth. So that suggests eating food. Suggests what this might be. So let's find out. So the next thing I've got underneath here is signed artwork. Nice. And if you're getting a theme here, food, tablecloth, Chinese restaurants possibly. I think I know what this is. And I didn't think it was going to be a box set, but it is. And what we've got in here is Jiangshi from Banana Chan and Seng Fu Lim. Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall, a tabletop roleplay game. Run the family restaurant, survive the night. And this is published by Game and a Curry Games. I don't approve. Why spoil a good game with a curry? And Wet Ink Games. Your mileage may vary. I do know people like curries. I'm not one of them. Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall. Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall is a collaborative storytelling role-playing game set in 1920s Chinatown. It's about a Chinese-American-Canadian family making a living by running their restaurant and showing resilience during hard times. Despite societal backlash and anti-Chinese laws, they have turned a profit and their quality of life has improved. Until now. Night brings a new terror and the family must come together to survive. Players take on the roles of family members, spanning 3 generations who face the supernatural threat of the Jiangshi, hopping vampires by night and oppression by day. Players must balance the responsibility of running and maintaining their family businesses with protecting themselves and the community from the dreaded Jiangshi. Are you ready to survive? Box comes with core rulebook, scenario book, 12 dice, basically 13 dice, restaurant cards, 39 Hmong cards, 14 Jiangshi cards, 1 defeating Jiangshi 101 card, 1 times X card, restaurant board, player sheets, spirit papers. So the background of this sounds absolutely terrible and brilliant. Now, terrible in the sense that what you're dealing, you essentially, when you're playing historical role-playing games, one of the problems, of course, is that some of the attitudes of the societies back then were not as enlightened as they are today. So there are lots of problems, issues if you're playing a Call of Cthulhu or Lovecraftian role-playing game with the racism inherent in the writings. It's not in the role-playing game. You do not have to address that. Okay, and you can role-play in any historical setting. And ignore those elements if you want to, and obviously a lot of the cases you really should. This one, though, is different. Okay, it actually has you address that oppression faced by Chinese immigrants in the West during the early 20th century, but it had been going on for longer than that. Certainly in the States, which outlawed. Essentially brought into basically passed acts that would limit Chinese immigration and I mean that would happen again with different people of different origins. but the Chinese in particular. And it's one reason, as I understand it, why in many cases there you have essentially Chinese quarters of the city where they would all congregate and sort of like were allowed to keep businesses, but anywhere outside of that they weren't. So yeah. So let's have a look in here. And again, I said I'm really fascinated by this subject. Why I backed it on Kickstarter. I mean, even the artwork is fantastic, and I thought it's a great idea for a role-playing game. And because also one of the other things that what it means you can also do is you can role-play from somebody of a different background and origins and culture, and at least attempt to come to understand the difficulties that they face. Okay, and that's interesting, and it's also an interesting role-playing challenge, because obviously, I'm sitting here, I am a middle-aged white person, and sometimes it can be interesting. I mean, obviously, I go off and play an elf. I don't often do that, actually. I don't often play elves, but I mean, you know what I mean. Go and play an orc or an elf or a fantasy character, but to actually play real sort of like real-world characters in difficult situations is both an experience and a challenge, and it makes you think, and I think that's a good idea, and I think that's what this feature of Jiangshi will do. So let's get it open. Just slide the knife along there. So I'm just trying to get under the plastic, because I say my fingers are getting a little cold. So a bit easier now. Pull that out of the way. So open up the box, see what we've got in here. And it's quite a lot. We've got, I'll just show you. There we go. We've got the cover of the box again. I said fantastic artwork. I really love the look on the front of this game. We've got more art cards. So there we go. And then we've got the sort of another art card, a bit more cartoonish, but again that shows the family under assault by the Jiangshi at night. And character sheets. So on here, what's interesting here is you've got the character sheets. Basically, you've got the family name, Chinese name, pronouns, generation, age, and so on, and relationships for building across. Basically between the players, and essentially, you've got the interesting thing is sort of like you have you've got the family name, Chinese name, and English name. And that's essentially basically the difference is essentially they've got Chinese name with their own, basically when they're with other people of Chinese background, and then the English name for when we're dealing with us. And yeah, that's again making an adaptation for essentially what would be our ignorance, which I freely admit that happened. And you've got write on, wipe off pens, because essentially those cat. Thank you so much, cat. He's just leapt onto my game and got mud everywhere. Let's just wipe some of that off. Thank you, cat. So as you can see, you've got notes marked with his paws, muddy paws. Thank you, cat. So, and then we have dice. So 8-sided dice, lovely golden colour on those dice, basically, and then a little white door, 4-sided dice. Then we've got a guide to defeating Jiangshi 101. And we have these are the Hmong cards. I don't know what they do, but they are. Let's go with a Hmong-tastic. And then we've got, I think they're basically probably these are the Jiangshi cards, and we've got an X card there as well. Obviously, the X card there is the tool basically for basically you have out on the table basically tap up when player taps it when something comes up in play which they are uncomfortable with or may object to, and that's basically it's a really useful tool to have on the table. In play, generally, I found that if it's out on the table, but we generally settle with any issues with things like that beforehand. Do you have any? This game deals with this, this, and this. Do you have any problems with this? And you'll discuss it. We essentially do like an edition 0, an episode 0 or session 0 before you start playing. And so in my experience, that I don't tend to. Okay, it's there, but it doesn't actually come up in play very often, unless, of course, how can I put it? Unless, of course, obviously it often comes up as a bit of a joke, oh, I really don't like that, basically, it's semi-seriously. We know how to use it properly, but most of the time. So anyway, we've also got essentially the table laid out, ready to play on. And, don't want this going everywhere because it's a bit slippery. And then we've got the 2 books. So the first book is the core rulebook. Nothing on the back. Let's just have a take a look inside. And then got the forward there. A bit stiff, I think, on there, but basically, it's quite a solid rulebook. Overview. Let's see if we get anything more in here. Explains what a role-playing game is, and then how to set up the game. So this is going to be a bit more sort of like procedural, I think, basically, because you've got this kind of different setup to what you would normally have in a role-playing game. And then we go into the historical setting. I think it's going to be an interesting aspect of it. Sorry, just basically the cat is acting oddly. Nice image of downtown Chinatown. We're going into the background of that. And one of the things you can do with this is you essentially, if your city where you live, or a city you could that has a Chinatown, you could easily adapt it there and make it familiar to everyone around the table. I could just about do it here in Birmingham, but we actually have a very small Chinese quarter. I think we probably call it a Chinese half quarter. I think at the very most, because I used to work there. I used to work there in a cinema nearby. And so we've got a basic background upon Chinatown, Chinese culture, special holidays, that sort of thing, and events, because life in the quarter is going to be a little bit obviously different to that outside. And then we've got popular deities, the Jiangshi in this game, which obviously may well differ. Well, obviously, if they're going to be different to perhaps what you might be used to in folklore, or some people are used to in the folklore. And then we go on to Cantonese cooking. Section on that. That's always useful to find out about it. You can always go and research that, and we'll get explanation of Cantonese food. And that would actually be quite interesting to read, because obviously, you kind of go, oh yeah, go to Chinese, but just get this, and that, and the food is often different to what will differ between what they serve to us and what they eat themselves. They have westernized the menus to a certain extent, and it's always interesting. How can I put it? It's always interesting going to a Chinese restaurant if you go with someone who is actually Chinese. I do have my friend Debbie, and I've been to a couple of restaurants with her, and that's always an interesting experience. So yeah, I'm just saying this. I'm not saying it from any. It's a different experience to going to a restaurant with in general. A Chinese restaurant in general like that. And then we have playing a racist non-player character safely. Again, it's addressing the issue at the core of half of the setting, where the player characters are going to be the victims of racism, and if you are the referee, you know, you have to express that in play. That's not going to be pleasant. But I think it's, again, part of that learning experience of experiencing something that you haven't. But again, the advice is warranted. And then we've got basically this is a complete guide to running the game so far up to there. And then we've got a guide to creating your character. And they've got tables of names, skills. Okay. Designing your own skills and facets, hopes and dreams. Running a restaurant. It's key to playing the game because obviously it's your livelihood. Then advice for the GM, the dice system, modifying dice rolls and so on, awarding of individual dice and so on. Stuff just basically how to run the game. Where are we? And then we have always carry vinegar and actual play. I think great, absolutely. Jiangshi is going to be possibly different to other role-playing games you may have come across, and so having an example of play, seeing what it's like, is always a good idea, and it shows you what the designers were thinking. And then we have a bibliography at the back, sources, always useful for further research. And then we come on to Jiangshi Haunted Tales, 10 horrifying scenarios. And we've listed the authors on the back. Anyway, so got advice on making your own scenario inside. And then we come into always carry vinegar, basically expanded that. A bit of damage there in terms of the printing was a bit disappointing there, but you know. And then different last spike and so on. So there's 10 different adventures in here, different types. It's all DIU from here. Hunters in the Dark. So you can bring this to the table multiple times and basically play through adventures. Like Noodle Runner as your family over the course of like the 3 generations, and the sort of supports it. So you've got like almost like a mini campaign here, or you know, who says witches don't like Chinese food? So yeah, yeah. So lots of adventures, plenty of support. It's a lovely box set. So let's pack this up and keep the cat from leaping into it. Daft thing. I am fond of him, but he's annoying at times. But then he's a cat, so what do you expect? So yeah, Jiangshi, I'm quite impressed with it. It's nicely put together, nice package, something you definitely sort of like. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so, sort of like, so packed like that, but it is. And then underneath we have that. So yeah, nice complete box set. Lots of things to dig into there. And if you are looking for something different to play and something different to experience, then I think that this will scratch. Basically will. Satisfy that interest. So that's Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall, a Chinese restaurant horror role-playing game, which is not a combination I thought I'd ever come across talking about, but I'm always intrigued by new and different role-playing games. In the meantime, first off, I apologise if I've ever got anything wrong or if I said anything offensive in this in this unboxing, because obviously it is dealing with difficult subjects. Okay. So I apologise, it's not intended. We'll make that clear. Of course, learn traditionally, so if you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook, please do click the like button. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a nice hot cup of tea, opening up a box and thus a game and chatting about it for roughly 10 minutes or so. All of course accompanied by that nice hot cup of tea and sometimes by a cat who is not ours. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Okay, well, thanks again for watching. We'll be back again soon with another unboxing of the Nook. Bye for now.